This is The Real Deal, where real estate meets real life. Whether you're a seasoned real estate expert, a first-time home buyer, or if you're simply passionate about hearing small business stories, this is the podcast for you. Join us as we dive deep into the world of real estate and beyond.
Today's episode is sponsored by Eco Roofing. Eco Roofing is the premier Arizona state roofer that offers free estimates as well as the best roof warranty that will last 25 years. Make sure to check them out and check the description for more info. All right, well, welcome to The Real Deal, where real estate meets real life. Our guest today is Marshall, and we are here on episode 45. I am your host, Janine Igliani, with my co-host, Ryan Hatcher.
What's up, guys?
And Marshall, we're excited to have you because you represent home builders. You have Outback Custom Homes.
Yep.
And we actually work in the same office, so we get to see Marshall a lot. We love having you. But Marshall, we love to start from the beginning. So just tell us about yourself and where you grew up and all that kind of fun stuff.
How you got into this?
Good question. So I've been in home building my whole life. It kind of seems funny. I'm much like Janine. Real estate and construction was my first career. It's not my second career. So I actually, growing up, my father was an attorney and had just a lot of income producing retirement income homes type of thing. So I grew up with that. Like my favorite show growing up as a kid was This Old House. Sweet. Loved watching that, watching to see, how we could do stuff. And because we were just buying houses and making duplexes and trailer parks and you name it, we did it. So
Did you work on them?
Oh, absolutely.
Wow. From what age?
From the time I was probably 5
Wow.
until I was 16. I didn't want to work for him anymore.
That's super cool.
$3 an hour. And I was tired.
You're like, I'm worth more than that.
I'm worth more than $3.
That reminds me of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, actually.
Yeah, he was. So I learned growing up. So I love construction. And then my father, like I said, was an attorney, and I also loved speech and debate like him. And I thought I was going to go into law. Going into college, I was like, hey. Was a very successful high school debater in speech, and so I thought I'd do it.
I could see that,
Yeah,
Marshall.
I
I see that side to you.
It's kind of fun. I like talking, I like communicating. So, but my dad just told me his one piece of advice was he said, skip law. I made all my money in real estate. And I was like,
Wow.
That's like mic drop. Okay, so hold on. Where did you grow up?
so grew up in Rexburg, Idaho.
Okay. Yeah. And then where did you go to college?
So then I went to school at BYU in Provo.
Okay.
And that's what I studied was construction management based on that one,
one sentence.
One piece of advice. So I was like, okay.
Okay, wow. Dad.
I will go into construction management. And I love the degree. It's one of the best degrees. My son's actually graduating in it right now in August, and they have 100% job placement just because it's a mixture of business, construction, engineering, and law. Actually, it's a combination of 4 degrees, and it just really, I feel like, prepared me well for this career and kind of what I was doing.
One of my really good friends and our previous guest actually went through the same program too, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I was, again, going back to the sales side, though, I was kind of a weird hybrid. When I was going to BYU, I was you have to do an internship, 500-hour internship, so I was working for a company called Outback Homes and prepping 60 houses for completion, when the homeowners were done and move in, and I was just freezing my butt. It's in Utah, freezing my butt off out there, and I was looking at the salespeople in the sales office, and they were like literally drinking hot chocolate and eating Mrs. Phil's cookies, and I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing out here? I can be doing that.
Yeah.
And so again, one of those pivotal moments, I quit. I said, you know what? I can sell these houses. I know I can. So as a full-time college student taking like 18, 19 credit hours, I quit my job and took the real estate 90 hours in 3 weeks and passed, got my real estate license, and started selling for another builder in town while still going to school full-time. And that was like another pivotal moment because I just put them on the map. I sold 52 houses in my first 8 months.
Did
awesome.
that count your internship?
Yes and yes. It was kind of an interesting situation because no one in the construction management program had ever done that before. And that was the weird thing, though. Coming upon graduation, I wasn't looking for a job, right? I mean, I was already making
money.
I was making 6 figures as a college student, so and everyone there just wants to hire like superintendents and stuff like that. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Already making good money, not really interested, type of thing.
Can we stop for a second and just talk about the value of apprenticeship and learning under somebody? Because I think people don't they just want to jump to it, right? They
Yes.
want to get the education, whatever, and then just go out and start. But there's so much value in learning under somebody and having a mentor.
Well, part of the problem I think with that is our schooling, our school system. We are taught from kindergarten that you have to take a test by yourself, and you have to learn basically on your own and get tested. But the real world is collaborative, and if you really want to get good at something, follow somebody doing it really well already.
Yeah, well, and that's one thing I do love about the construction management program is that you have to have 2 500-hour internships actually, so not just one. And it makes sense because you need to find what niche of construction you want to go into. I mean, I remember the first day on the job site as an assistant superintendent, and my superintendent's like, okay, go walk that house and see if it's ready for frame inspection. I'm like, it's like you're in school, you should know this stuff, but it's like you said, it's where the rubber meets the road, and actually understanding it. So yeah, huge value in experience. I mean, and you can't, there is a lot of book smarts, but in construction, it's street smarts. 100% like street smarts.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of like that in real estate too. You kind of had that though, growing up, right, with your dad and being able to be a part of what he was doing on a small level. And so it's like, I always say real estate was in my blood, and I feel like my kids I will have conversations in the car with clients, and they'll be in there, and I'm like, you guys are getting like $1 million education right now by listening to this phone call.
Well, and that's one of the added bonuses to why I bought my first rental property, because I wanted my kids to participate in the fixing up of it, the renovation.
Well, at least to a small degree, and it is kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I agree with the same full-heartedly with my kids. Again, my dad, he's bought all different properties, but he's kind of specialized in mobile homes. He realized that was kind of like the best return on investment, so he did 3 mobile home parks. So I'm really good at rehabbing mobile homes. And one of my first investment properties that I bought was a mobile home here. And the same thing, I took my 2 boys out there, and I'm like, because that's what my dad did to me. I'm like, okay, go for it. Yeah. And I told them what to do. And just let them have at it, because you can't really screw up too much on one of those things. But it was hilarious going back and seeing their work. They had like door trim facing one way on this side of the door and the opposite way on the other side of the door, and everything was really just wonky. And but I'm like, what, it's okay. It's your learning. It's your learning experience. So yeah, my dad did give me a lot of learning opportunities at that age. And in construction, we call it now tuition. Like when we make mistakes. And you mentioned that earlier before this podcast that I've definitely paid for several doctorates in tuition along the way on making mistakes.
But you learn from it, right? Failure and those mistakes is how we learn, because now I'm sure some of those mistakes are things that you'll never do again, right? You always get right.
Correct. Many of those.
Hey, can you give us an idea of an example?
Well, there's one that that's probably overshadows many, and this was a project that I was doing before the recession, and we were planning this large triplex product actually, and the architect going into this project, we drew out the entire thing, so it cost us about somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 to plat and plan this project. So they gave me this nice Tommy Bahama silk shirt with their like embroidery on it, and we never built that project. So that's my $200,000 shirt that will never go away because, I have plans and no project. And so that's one of those really expensive tuition moments. You're like,
But you still could, though, at some point, right?
We could have, don't know that we ever will. Now it's just one of those projects where you're just like, timing was everything, it was like, that was like 04, 05, and so just the market just dropped out so much. And my financial partners who actually were doing the project are even no longer like alive. So I don't think I'll do the project.
I don't think so. Okay, so Marshall, catch us up, because that's kind of how you started. And now here you have your own company, you guys are building, and you kind of have a specific niche market. So how did that come into fruition?
Good question. So when I came here to Arizona, so kind of an interim shift there was when I graduated, going back to where I was at, when I graduated, I went out to North Carolina, and I worked for a home builder out there called America's Home Place, and they're the nation's second largest scattered lot home builder. So they don't do subdivisions; they build on your own land, and they're from North Carolina down to Florida. They have 50 locations, and they just build primarily on people's property. So when I went to work for them as their sales manager, I was over in Greensboro and Raleigh and Durham. And the one thing that I figured out that no one else kind of in the company had figured out was that most people don't have land. Some people have land, but so as a company, they were building like 1,500 houses out of 50 locations, right? So each location averaging, whatever that is, 30 houses. And I was like, well, why don't we just have a land agent in each one of our houses, in each one of our locations, and like have all the available land and advertise homeland packages? And that one shift, just because I kind of had that mindset, I'm like, I don't know anybody that has like family land. I don't know anybody out here, but I know there's a lot of land and it's cheap. That one shift propelled my offices from selling like 20 houses a year to 75 to 100 houses a year. Wow. So we just blew up that company, and it was awesome. It was a good experience. So in response to that, they made me a vice president of my location. So I was sales manager for 2 years, and then I became like vice president in charge of construction and sales in those locations. And so that was my truly like 4 years of like boots on the ground, learning experience, learning how to run sales, operations, construction, at a pace of we were doing, about 150, 200 houses a year, and all on separate lots, not in one spot. So that was really awesome. But, and I had bottom line P&L control, so I knew how much money I was making for the company, which was millions of dollars. And after a few years out, I was like, I think I might want to try that for myself. Yeah. So that's when I moved out back here. My wife's from Gilbert. She was born and raised here and always wanted to be back here. Her whole family's here. So in 2004, that's what I gave her for Christmas. I just said, we're moving to Gilbert.
I love that.
And it literally took we were here visiting her parents for Christmas, and she left the kids here, and we went back to North Carolina, packed up our stuff, and she didn't give it 1 second. She's like, kids are staying, we're going back, packed up our stuff and drove back.
Holy cow.
That's awesome.
So yeah, with that, so in 2004 I just started.
And Outback was born.
Outback Custom Homes was born in 2004, and that's what I was telling my son who's graduating. He's like, "How did you kind of start?" And in the beginning, I was buying just one-off lots, and going to build houses on them. But that was, Janine, if you were here that time, it was such a crazy time that I literally would put my sign up, and the next day I would just be inundated with calls, and so I didn't even have to build the houses. So I kind of became a lot flipper, to be totally honest, for first couple of years. I put a sign up, sell my lot. I didn't have to build houses. And then I got into some bigger projects with some other investors. So I was doing 180 unit projects, bigger projects, right up until the recession, the downfall. So you talk about a horror story. That was my horror story.
Yeah. What did that look like for you? What did you learn from it too?
Well, we were 60 units into a 180 unit condominium complex when the market fell out. It was down in Casa Grande, and so we were in big time trouble because and my investors were from Utah, and I'm like, guys, it's over. And they're like, it can't be over. I'm like, no, it's over. They had no idea how bad it was, and how we were $160,000 to $180,000. It wasn't like we were expensive product, but I'm like, you can go buy a single family house down the street for $50,000, and not just one of them, any of them. Right. You can pick up any house, and so they came down. They're like, okay, it's just over. So great learning experience from that. The one thing I'm proud of is that we were literally over $10 million, in debt to the banks on that project. But one of my experienced partners, he's just like, look, I've done this for 50 years. Been through these cycles. You just be honest with the bank. They'll be honest with you. Work with the bank. They'll work with you. So we didn't file bankruptcy. Most builders did. Most builders just went belly up and filed bankruptcy. We didn't. We just we worked through the short sale process with them. Found a seller. So it's I worked for 3 years on that project, and then I worked for the next 2 years to get out of that project. But I'm proud that we did, and still had a good relationship with the bank, and they admitted that, hey, nobody could have foreseen, obviously, the recession and what was going to happen.
I love that. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like honesty is the best policy, even in the hard stuff.
Yeah. It was very hard, but it's kind of funny because I get calls from it from time to time from people because we sell it to an apartment that they transferred it into an apartment complex, and then they're like, hey, do you want to build this out? Because they see I'm the contractor of record. I'm like, and no, I will not be building that project. Yeah. They're like, why? I'm like, why not? I'm like, it was a bad experience.
So how did you weather that? Because if we can talk about it, that was a really tough time, especially for someone in your shoes. How did you weather that?
So that is a really good question, and that's what I was having this conversation with my son actually just this last week as well. Is that real estate sales? I've always had my real estate license, so it's always kind of been my backfall during the hard times. During the good times, I love to build. I want to build. It's what I feel like I'm doing my best when I'm doing it. But, in up markets or down markets, transition is happening. There's always things happening, right, and stuff. And so during that time, I mean, it was just obviously investor-driven sales. You just had to pivot and go to short sales and foreclosures, and that's what I did. I literally didn't build anything from 07 to like 13 for like 6 years. Wow. Didn't build anything because it was just, got into the fix and flip market and got really good at fix and flip. But that's what it was. So my fallback, pivoting and falling back to sales and. Just learning a down market. We'd never experienced a down market, right? I'd done 7 years of up, and all of a sudden it was like, what? Down? I don't know down. So I had to learn.
So how did you just turn that switch on the sales side?
Well, here's the funny thing was that we were down to kind of like our last dollars type of thing, and
that's a good motivator, by the way, right? Like, I gotta feed my family.
Yeah, when you have and I am the sole income provider for my family. So it's like I don't have like a spouse that's making money. A lot of real estate agents do, but but we were just kind of down to our last thing. I'm like, well, if I'm going down, I'm going down in a ball of flames. So me and two other guys, we partnered and we bought our first foreclosure house. We at the auction, we'd never done it. We were like, well. And it was literally right over here behind our office, and we're just like, well, we all had $40,000. We bought the house for $120,000. We're like, worst case scenario, we can rent it. We hope that we could fix and flip it and make some money on it, and thankfully we did. But we did like pretty much, I'd say 90% of the work all of ourselves.
Yeah. Wow.
Do I know those two guys?
Yeah, actually you do. Yeah, Brenton, and also my partner right now, Garrett. So yeah. We just did all the work and sold it, made a profit, and we're like, okay, maybe there is light in this dark tunnel that we can't do.
That was risky, if I'm honest, that you guys did that with your last whatever.
It was very risky. Yeah, it was very risky. And interesting, another thing we did during that downturn, Garrett and I actually started a debt settlement company though as well. So that was a good anti-recession company that we did. We ran that for 3 years.
Interesting. Just in hearing all of this, Marsha, I know you, but like your brain is very entrepreneurial. Like you very much are like, okay, here I can do this, and you just find a way and make it happen. I love that.
Yeah, that was one thing that I got, one piece of advice that somebody gave me that I thought was really interesting. They said, being in business for yourself it sounds so glamorous and it sounds so cool, but they're like, really? It's just a game of survival. Right. Like you can't change the way the wind blows. You just have to tack and sail. That's what you got to do.
That's so true.
That's good. Okay, so catch us up. So I love that you weathered that storm, that you were creative in that process of like, what are some creative ways that we can weather this storm and get through it? And you had Outback, and now here we are in a much different market, right? A few different markets since then. But tell us about what it is that you do now and what do you do that's different?
Okay, thank you for that. The one thing I learned when I had my Utah partners, we were down here, we were trying to develop land and build houses. But what we realized was that we were getting squashed by all the public builders. Here in the Phoenix market, you have just every public builder that exists, and they buy land at its future value. So not at its current value. They buy land at what it's going to be worth in 7 years from now, because by the time they entitle it, get roads and everything done with it. So we're just getting beat out and beat out and beat out. So again, I'm like, I can't compete against these guys. Even when I had millions of dollars backing me, I still couldn't compete against these guys because they would buy land for more. I'm like, and all of us were like scratching our heads. We're like, doesn't really make sense. They're like, well, if you're building 3,000 houses and you need houses in that long, they'll do it. So that's when I found my niche. So that's when Outback really kind of took hold. Was I just realized, okay, can't compete against these big guys. What do not every homeowner is looking for, but the niche market, which is an acre lot with no HOA.
How many times do we hear that, Ryan?
Yes, all the time.
Yeah, and I heard it a lot too from my buyers. They're like, where can I go that I can have my chicken, my pet chicken, or that I can park my RV trailer and not be paying $300 a month for.
And I can paint my front door whatever color I want.
And I don't have my neighbor right outside my window, right?
Yeah. Well, in fact, before we built our house, we were talking about it because I was literally going that route.
Yeah.
And then what got us back into the the subdivision was it was just closer to all my kids' friends in the school district, and we didn't want to have to drive 4 more miles every time we did anything. But I still think about that pickleball court, that basketball court in my backyard.
Yeah. So that it is. It's just that's what we build for. We build for the unconventional buyer that wants to do what they want to do, and they can do it. So we specifically buy land that doesn't have CC&Rs that are restricting what they want to do on their property.
And then one thing, and I want you to speak to this, is in terms of like a custom build, is it that they get options? Like, what does that build process look like?
Because you're more semi-custom, right?
Yeah, it is a good question. So the other thing that I tried to develop was a lot more custom, and now we have a set number of plans that are standard plans. So we have about 5 standard plans right now, and we build efficiency into those plans by building them, again and again and again. So we're not having to, if you went to buy your own custom home, you're going to have to pay for the architect, and pay for the engineering and pay for the permitting of that. Whereas,
which is several $1,000s.
Oh, it's like several tens and twenties of $1,000s type of thing. So it's a lot of money. But with these, we have all that done, and so we can actually, build efficiently. The other efficiency that we really build into our process is buying land in bulk. So we buy 5 acres and then split it into 4 acre and a quarter lots. And so by doing that, if you went to buy a one-off one of our lots, you'd pay literally double the price of what we do, because we're buying it in bulk and then putting the services.
So for those listening, you can imagine a street that goes down, and then you've got houses on each side that are all about an acre apiece, and it's a pretty sweet little subdivision.
Yeah, well, we avoid the term subdivision here.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a subdivision.
Neighborhood.
But it is a nice
Right, because of the HOA connotation, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it really does make it just nice feels. And so people, if they want to choose their custom colors, their custom options, we're happy to do that. And in that case, they get a construction loan. And when they get the construction loan, they have full choice of everything, options from colors to options to customization. Because when you're building, there's a time, cost, quality triangle. And a lot of people don't understand that. But basically, it's 3 items. You have time, you have cost, and you have quality. And if you look at that in a triangle standpoint, you can have 2, but not all 3. You're going to sacrifice one of those. And so essentially, what you're going to sacrifice, if you're building a custom home and you want the best quality for the lowest price, you're going to sacrifice time. It's just going to take time.
And for track homes, it's the opposite.
Right.
Your quality goes down.
For business, time is money, right? So they have those efficiencies. So we're happy to do that, but then we just know that the interest is going to be on their dime. So, because it's a construction loan on them, which is fine. So on a build like that, we'll be more like 12 to 18 months, depending on the complexity of the home. And we always have a few of those going on at a time, which are fun. But then the bulk of our business we've just found is that people, again, if we have a good single level house that's 3,000 square feet, 4 or 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, 4-car garage, that's going to satisfy most people's needs. And they especially appreciate it that it becomes affordable, because we've always tried to be like that affordable semi-custom home type of thing, and not be because when you go full custom, it's just gonna
right. But you don't skimp on insulation and those types of things.
No, from a building standpoint, we're very sensitive to we build the house the way we would want it to be if it was ours. So it's 2x6 construction. It's spray foam insulation in the attic and the walls and the full envelope. Yeah, I mean everything we do from 8-foot, 10-foot ceilings and 8-foot doors, just because we like them.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Everything we do.
It also helps you sell them too.
No, for sure. Yeah, and get a good customer on that. But so so it's more like a semi-custom home that they could add those finishes to. And the nice thing too is that it happens all the time. We find a buyer that buys our home and then they want to do the custom finishes to it. And can we do it? I'm like, of course you can. You can do whatever the heck you want. We can add on to it. We can build a casita. We can build a detached garage, and we do that all the time for our customers.
I tell Kara this. So the house that we have is 8 years probably, and then our kids are going to be gone, which is kind of scary. And I will be done with track homes in a neighborhood, I promise. So then you can either go full custom or semi-custom, and I think that's the best of both worlds, because you have the efficiency, but you can tweak it and make it your own. Yeah. I love it, and it's affordable.
Yeah, it really just boils down to now. In this market, it's like we try to. I always say we try to be affordable. What's affordable now? Who knows, right? You know, but it's like, but we've been building this same floor plan that I can tell you from 2013 to now, 2024 for like 11 years. I mean, we could build this house with land for like $525,000. And now it's like $925,000, and we're not making more money. That's the reality. That's the sad part. I have to tell people, I'm like, I'm not making any more money. That just labor and materials and land have gone up that much in that amount of time.
Even just the last couple of years, an acre in this area is insane.
Yeah, it's sad.
Went from 150,000 or less to 400, 500.
800.
Yeah, 850. I have one I just helped with.
Exactly, and that's the hard part. Is just that, just trying to make the affordability. So we really loved it, and I'd say probably 3-4 years ago, hindsight 2020, that was when the best time, because there was a lot of people that were able to just cash out and sell their track home and move into one of our homes for almost like an even price point, because land hadn't shot up again on us. And they were just loving it, because like, this is the best thing ever. Like, I just sold my track home, and now I'm on a home on an acre lot, and it's not extremely big. It's kind of funny, because we get that a lot from actually retired people too. They're like, "What's the smallest home?"
Yeah, they don't want a big one.
They literally ask that, and we're like, "That's a good question." No, we're like, well, no, it was like, it used to be like 2,400 square feet, and they're like, well, we don't even need that much. I'm like, well, you might want to build a house for your child and build a casita in the back for yourselves, which 2 people have done.
Someone in our office is doing that right now. She's getting ready to retire from her real estate business, and she's building a casita on her daughter's property, so she can live on it and just live the best life.
I can tell you a lot of people are asking for them right now.
Yeah, and our new plan, which is really neat, actually has that in-law suite into it. We just in our last 2 neighborhoods, or we've now built an in-law suite into the house.
Here's a weird question: have you had anybody ask for or set up like a safe room or some hidden room in the house?
It's kind of interesting, because I have a nephew that works for a company in Gilbert, and that's all they do. Are safe rooms. And
my next one will have that.
And I would love to incorporate one of his safe rooms, because they have you can pick whatever ball or whatever you want to do,
cool.
mechanism to a bookshelf and stuff like that. We haven't gotten one of those into our houses right now. We did one pre-recession, actually. So yes, we did one. It was in Seville, in the gated Seville Estados, in the gated area.
I love that area. So speaking of areas, Marshall, where are you building?
Good question. So I am solely in the Southeast Valley. That's just my area. It's my niche. So we're in Gilbert, Chandler, Queen Creek, Santan Valley.
Awesome. And who's your ideal client?
I would say anybody who's looking for that semi-custom house. So not the over-the-top finishes, but someone who's looking to get out, have the country, I would say 90% of my clients have trailers, RVs, parking constraints. That seems to be the driving factor for and it makes sense, right? Why would they're paying some of them hundreds and thousands of dollars
for a boat slip.
That's my husband. Yeah, he's like, we need a house with land so we can park our boat on it and not have to pay for monthly parking.
Boat and trailer. And honestly, we're doing the same right now. We're paying to keep our boat covered, and you need to.
Yeah, you have to.
You can't. So So that I would say I don't know if it's my ideal customer, but it's definitely the customers that seek us out the most are people that have parking constraints and then the multi-generational people, because it's just awesome. And I can tell you, it's everyone that we've built has really been like a dream come true for that family. When you have that, like, the parents moving in, or the kids moving in, type of thing. And some people we've built, they have like a child with special needs, and they're like, look, this child's going to live with us our entire life, but we want them to have their own space, so they can feel independent and be independent as much as possible.
So just hearing you say that, I know how we feel when we hand the keys over to somebody and we're finished with that purchase, and they're so pumped. I bet it's intensified for you because you built this place.
It's awesome, and the relationships we have with our clients are really close, and that's one thing I do treasure, is that we have a high level of repeat and referral customers, because we try. That's cool. I think our little slogan is just the best results are happy customers. And that's my
good. I was actually going to ask that. What are some of your guiding principles as a company?
quality, number one. I mean, we won't sacrifice on that period. Like we just don't, we're not out there to build the cheapest home at all. It's quality. And fixing our mistakes. I think that's the other thing that kind of boils down to as well. It's kind of interesting. We've had a lot of people that, this is their first build process and they're all just like, wow, like it's just nice and refreshing that you guys don't like hide your stuff, because that's why I tell them, like, we're imperfect people. There's gonna be screw ups on the house. There's gonna be probably like 20 to 40 of them, type of thing, but that's all right. We're going to fix them. If I have to tear down the whole house, I'll tear down the whole house.
I think if I'm honest, that's one of the frustrations I have with the big builders, the big box builders, is that sometimes when we go for those walkthroughs, it feels like they're upset or offended that we're calling things out. It's like, it is what it is, right? Just own it and fix it.
Yeah, you didn't do it. You didn't build it yourself. So just own it. Yeah, no, they're always impressed, like when we do the walkthroughs, because I'm taping it up with them, and I tell them I walk the house prior to them doing it,
which is nice,
and do my own walk, and I find, like, I always tell them I'm going to find like 80%, but a different set of eyes is going to catch something else, and it's always funny because when they see something, I'm like, how did I miss?
Yeah.
Well, that speaks to your quality concept, because on my house we spent 2.5 hours with tape, and that should never have happened. The builder should have done it already, and then we're there after they've fixed those things,
Yeah, well, and I did another walkthrough in your neighborhood, and like you said, with some clients, and it's like what Janine said. It was like adversarial. I mean, they literally had to pull in another. They had to pull in another superintendent, because the one superintendent was just kind of getting too worked up about it. He's like, well, we don't think this, counts. And my client's like, well, it's counting.
Well, and right.
And I was kind of like, how does it not count?
Well, and honestly, Marshall, do they know like what you do? Like, did they?
I try to like kind of downplay them, like, unless they try to, I don't like come out and like, beat my chest like I'm a contractor, I know better, but try to just play the realtor card on. But I'm like, you know
codes, buddy.
Right?
Yeah, it's like, I know what is the standard, and that's not the standard.
That's the most frustrating. It's like, just say yes, I'll fix it, right? That's it. That's all we want to hear.
Exactly. Just live up to it. Exactly. Live up to what your expectations and do it right. So it's a fun line that we have in our contract that just says that no one can build the perfect home, and if they could, you couldn't afford to buy it. But we're gonna build a home that you're proud to live in, and that we're proud to build. And if there's anything that's not right, we're gonna fix it.
What more could anybody want? I love that. All right, Marshall, what didn't we ask you that we should have?
That is a very insightful question.
How do you like the mustache? No, I'm just kidding. We talked about that before.
I got one. This is something I ask a lot of people. What are non-negotiables in your life?
That's a good question. I know it sounds maybe trite, but I would say what comes to my mind is like faith, family, and freedom. Those are just.
We're right there with you.
There's nothing trite about that, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just really grateful to live here in Arizona. And be around good people, and be able to be in a good place to raise your family in a good place.
I love it. I 100% agree. Well, we like to end with a speed round. Are you up for rapid fire questions?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. Favorite color?
Black.
Favorite food?
Outback.
Oh. Favorite drink?
Coke.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Top Gun.
Oh,
1 and 2.
Yes. That's a good one.
I saw it 3 times in the theater, buddy.
Just watched Top Gun 2 again last night because it's summer. There's no good summertime movies right now.
That's what I do. I put it on when I don't have to like zone in, and I'm just.
I wish there was more good summertime movies this year. I'm like, we got to kick it off. We got to get back into it. So.
When Top Gun 2 came out, I was like, it's been a long time since we've had a good movie like this.
A really good
right?
movie, right? We used to always do movie events for as a real estate office, and I honestly just haven't had a good movie that I can get behind right now. It's frustrating because I want to do them. I love those events, but you're like,
Trust me, I know. Okay, favorite book?
Ooh, that is a good question. I do try to listen to a book every single month via Audible, and one of my favorites is Tools of the Titans.
Yes, that's a good one.
It's a long one, but a good one.
It is a good one. Do you have a favorite sound?
Yes, I love the sound of just outdoors, being out, in particular the mountains.
I thought you would say like ocean waves or water.
My wife is ocean. She loves ocean, but I would say like when we play sounds like, you know, someday to go to sleep, stuff like that. Like I want to have like a fire crackling, like a campfire crackling, and outdoor like I'm in the mountains.
Isn't it so? It's so good.
That's my favorite.
Okay, do you have a favorite smell?
Coconut.
Oh, I love coconut. Okay, last but not least, and I know you're gonna have a good one for this, Marshall. Favorite vacation?
That is.
You've gone on some good ones.
Yes.
Yes, it would have to be our last vacation, which was my wife's and I's 25th anniversary to Bora Bora. That one has to top the charts.
That looked pretty amazing.
That is awesome. Well, we appreciate you being here and sharing your story with us, and we will make sure to link all of your info in the description for this video. Thank you, Marshall.
How do they get a hold of you?
Outbackcustomhomes.com. Honestly, all the information is just on our website, floor plans, where we're building, you know, what's available.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to The Real Deal, where real estate meets real life. Make sure to follow or subscribe to the Home Selling Team on YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify to stay up to date with our podcast.